Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Uh, you know, not a ton to talk about today, obviously. Camp is pretty much over. Everybody's on vacation, which sucks. Can't wait for training camp to start. Obviously, I think everybody's really excited about this team. Very, very excited. And I definitely can't wait to watch them play in preseason. It's going to be so fun. But this first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Connor Williams absent from minicamp. By all reports from pretty much all the beat writers, it seems that he's holding out for a new contract. He feels that he's underpaid. He did have a really nice season for us last year. I actually, especially going back and watching some of the games, he does pop up a lot as one of the more positives. He had some issues with snaps, obviously. He wasn't always, this man went from tackle to guard to center. And I don't know who had the idea to move him to center. I'm not entirely sure that if he did that in Dallas or not. I don't think he did. He might have. But for him to switch that position and really excel at it, it shows how versatile he is. And the only real issue, like I said, he had was snaps, because he was a really good run blocker. He was a really, really good athlete, and they used him a lot on edge runs and screens. He's a really good pass protector. He has really no weakness to his game, in my opinion. His Pro Football Focus grade, I'm pretty sure it was really, really high last year. So honestly, one of the more under-talked about Dolphins, to be honest with you. And the center position for this scheme is really important. If you look at all the Kyle Shanahan centers, they're all really good. Alex Mack is obviously probably the best example of that. He was on that Niners team for I think a year. He was with him in Cleveland, and then he moved with him to Atlanta. So it's definitely a position that they covet, and I think it's well worth the extension. The problem is there's just so many other things going on right now. We're going to talk about another player who's on the roster. There's two other players on the roster right now that want an extension, Christian Wilkins being the other one, and we're about to talk about another one here in a second. So, if I'm being honest, this should be somewhat of a priority. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because he is a really good player. He's very underrated, in my opinion. And he needs to be in camp with the boys. So they got to figure this out. And I think he's worth it. Shout out to Connor Williams. I do appreciate his game. So here's your update on Dalvin Cook. We're still talking about Dalvin Cook. It's getting very frustrating. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins are still, this was reported from Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, Jeff Darlington, who's on ESPN now. Barry Jackson even commented on it. They all pretty much say the same thing, that the Dolphins and Dalvin Cook have mutual interest in each other. The holdup is that sorry, I dropped that. The holdup is the money. It's how high are the Dolphins willing to go. Obviously, it's not to what Cook wants. He's still going to search on the open market, see if he can get something higher. The good news, if you're a Dalvin Cook supporter and you want him to become a Dolphin, the good news is it doesn't seem like running back markets are all that hot. So it doesn't seem, at least for now, and it probably already would have happened if his market was that hot. Especially with all these defensive ends like Danielle Hunter and Chase Young, rumored to be on the trade block. I just don't see, and not to mention DeAndre Hopkins is also on the free market. I don't think teams are going to view him as a priority. Plus, we already know the running back position is low value anyway. Even Saquon Barkley couldn't get a dang extension after the year he had. So, and he's younger than Dalvin Cook. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of things working in the favor of the Dolphins because the market isn't that great for him. So, it could happen. I doubt it will, but it could. And, it seems that if anybody's going to push for it, it's Mike McDaniel. To add on to this, These aren't actual articles, but these are tweets and some tweets from, your NFL reporters, and your casual article people for certain teams, like Ian Rappaport or Tom Pelissero, or, the big time NFL reporters. They've thrown around the idea, and this, again, this isn't from this isn't from Pro Football Rumors or anything like that, but they've thrown around the idea that, the Dolphins could trade Raheem Mostert or maybe Jeff Wilson, to one of the things that was thrown around was Raheem Mostert to Dallas. I would hate for that to happen. I can't remember. I think it was a fan who brought this up, and I read it, and I was like, it's a great point, that trading Jeff Wilson and just having Cook Mostert backfield, because the Jeff Wilson Raheem Mostert contracts aren't expensive at all. You could just have Raheem Mostert and Dalvin Cook this year, and then move on to Achane and Dalvin Cook the next year, which I thought was an interesting thing, and it does work. That definitely does work. So again, it definitely fits. The money just has to be right. They could make some trades. I don't think they can get rid of Cedric Wilson. If the Dolphins do trade Cedric Wilson, then you probably know what's gonna come next. It would probably be a Dalvin Cook signing after that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of different avenues. The Christian Wilkins extension could relieve some cap as well. I'm pretty sure it still can, if I'm not mistaken. So they definitely can move money around. They have they can afford Dalvin Cook, I think, is the main thing. They can afford him. It's just what kind of price did they want him at. He fits on the roster too. The backfield isn't too crowded, and I've said this a million times. Jeff Wilson, God bless him, he made some plays last year. He just didn't play very well at the end of last year. He really didn't, and people got to remember, at the time, the running back depth was awful. There just wasn't any running back depth. And one thing I will add before we move on: if I see Raheem Mostert is going to be traded to get Dalvin Cook, it will hurt a little bit. I actually really like Raheem Mostert a lot. He's more of a playmaker than I think people give him credit for. He runs with a lot more power. He does have very good vision. He's not the best running back in the world when it comes to open field stuff, like on screens, or even, and he's not the best receiving back either, but he is a much better player than I thought he was. And I thought he played really well last year, so we'll see what happens with Dalvin Cook. There's definitely a scenario where this happens, especially since there's mutual interest. The market's kind of dead. The Dolphins can move money around. So it could definitely happen. So let's move on. That's literally the latest we have. The Barry Jackson report from the Miami Herald. He said that the same thing I just told you, is that whatever all the other big reporters are saying is the money has to be right, but there is still mutual interest. I guess this is pretty much the synopsis of all that. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. This one surprised me as well. Well, I guess it didn't surprise me, but Dolphins defensive tackle Zach Sealer looking for a new contract. Zach Sealer is set to earn an affordable $2.5 million this upcoming season. So it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that he's looking for a raise. According to Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, it's no secret that Sealer is seeking a new contract. This one is interesting. He would be out of the priorities of re-signing at the moment. He would be last, obviously. He's not better than Connor Williams, even though fans probably like him more. And he's not better than Christian Wilkins. So he's definitely last on the list. And I love Zach Sealer. I think he's a phenomenal defensive tackle. He's a great rotation guy, and he's above average. I think a little bit of above average of a starter in the league. And I think Raekwon Davis is going to have a really good year this year. I think the scheme fits him better. I think Vic is going to know how to use Raekwon more than he was being used in the past. I think the switch to the front that we're gonna play, the 3-4 front, and especially the way Vic plays run defense, I think really fits Raekwon. So it's just not a ton. It's not a very big priority at the moment, and I don't know. Maybe the Dolphins will get around to it. But again, very good player. I love Zach, and I don't want to say he's replaceable because I don't think he is. It's hard to find starting caliber defensive tackles in the NFL. And it's, I think the Dolphins have 3 that are definitely above average. Maybe Raekwon Davis we can't put in that category yet. But he has potential to be, that's for sure, if he can stay healthy. But yeah, it's just not very high on the priority list at the moment. So I don't expect anything to get done. I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't mind for it to get done. That's for sure. This next news story is an update. This is from multiple reports from OTAs that Cam Smith has had a phenomenal offseason so far, that he's looked really good, which I very, very, very glad to hear. And, A-Chain got rave reports, Cam Smith got rave reports from all the beat writers, which is nice. And again, dude, I was watching Kader Kohu stuff. It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough. I don't know what the heck the defense is gonna look like. I have no idea what that secondary is gonna look like. I'm sure Vic's very happy. Shout out to Ronaldo Hill for his press conference talking about how the talent was a big reason that he came down here. Obviously, Vic Fangio being a big reason, but sometimes I think Dolphins fans forget. It's like Vic Fangio is on this team, dude. It's kind of weird. I don't know, man. Sometimes you just, the Jalen Ramsey trade here. Or Kader Kohu is still on the team. You look at some of the stuff, and it's kind of crazy. The defense is really good. I cannot express and stress how much of a difference it's going to be from this year to the next with this defense. It's because of Vic Fangio, because of the scheme change and how he runs things. And again, you add Cam Smith into there, with everybody that's there. I mean, even Nick Needham's hanging around. It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough. And Vic Fangio had actually good things to say about Nick, which I thought was cool. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Arguably the deepest position group on the team. They go 7 deep, and I'm talking 7 people who can start on NFL teams and give you really good snaps, really, really high level snaps at a lot of different positions. And I didn't even mention Javon Holland, but he's on the corner. But they can literally there are 7 players on this team that could start for anybody in the NFL. Which is, and honestly, Nick Needham is better than a lot of corners in the NFL, starting, for sure. So it's pretty wild. I think that's it for the news. I think we really covered it. We covered Cam Smith. We covered everything else. Very, very excited for the season to start, especially with Bradley Chubb and people. Again, another guy I forget about is Emmanuel Ogbah, dude. Good lord, it's. I was gonna get you guys the exact quote about Cam Smith, and who said it, and some of the things that people. Sam Madison, obviously the corner DB's coach, had a lot of glowing things to say about him. So yeah, he's just been getting a lot of really nice reviews so far, which is good. I loved Cam Smith into the draft. It just wasn't a position of need. Clearly, like I just said, 7 guys, including him now. It was 6 before, But yeah, I mean, they thought they needed the depth there, and they do. I mean, if the same thing happened, well, not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we did add Jalen Ramsey, so I don't know. Anyway, but at the end of the day, at least they drafted a good player. That's all. Do I agree with the position they took? No. Is he a good player? Yeah, he was one of my favorite players in the draft. So at the end of the day, at least he's a good player. All right, let's end the show with the fan Q&A. Here we go. So the first question comes from Mark Jefferson. He says, if the Dolphins fail to make the playoffs, Tua gets hurt and misses multiple games, is it time to look another direction, quarterback, coach, GM? Definitely not coach or GM. I would say quarterback. Yeah. As much as I love Tua, God bless him, if somehow this roster doesn't make the playoffs, then yeah, some people are... I hope it wouldn't go to that extreme. You know, I don't know. I hope it wouldn't. They just have too many great coaches in place. And I think Chris has done a pretty good job, especially the last 2 years. I think he's done a phenomenal job. And I mean, he's put three really good years together. So I mean, you could even add more years onto that if you count the Tunsil stuff. Yeah. So I don't think, if I looked at Chris, and especially, dude, and this is so underrated because I don't know if, I mean, maybe you guys have just forgotten Dennis Hickey and Jeff Ireland and Mike Tannenbaum, but those guys did not know how to manage the cap at all. At all. Chris Grier might be the best cap manager in the National Football League. He does such a good job with managing the money. So I honestly, Chris Grier, I definitely wouldn't, even consider if it was me. And then clearly I wouldn't fire Mike McDaniel. He would have only been head coach 2 years, and we had the best offense we've had since maybe the mid-90s, 95. So definitely not Mike. It would just be the quarterback. I mean, and I will say it again, the reason we didn't have more wins last year was because of the quarterback position. I'm not saying it was Tua's fault, but it wasn't Mike McDaniel's fault. And then listen, it was Josh Boyer and the quarterbacks. That's the reason. Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater were terrible. And so was Josh Boyer. So it wouldn't be Mike's fault. At least from what we've seen so far. The only thing I say about Mike is there was three things: not kicking the field goal against the Steelers, the way he handled the set of downs against Buffalo in the playoff game. That's really it. Those are the most egregious ones that come to mind. But other than that, Mike was pretty awesome. So he was the best first year head coach and he's done a phenomenal job building the staff. So to answer your question, Mark, no, I think those guys are off limits. No, unless it's I just don't see this team being bad unless the quarterback is the reason. And maybe if the protection is terrible. If Austin Jackson doesn't live up to I don't even know if he has expectations at this point. But yeah, I would say it would be the quarterback. This next question comes from SM. He says, Tyreek Hill is a tough guy. He took a beating last year. Nobody seems to care. And by the way, one thing before I answer SM's question, I just want to roll back to Mark. All the other head coaches that we've had would not have kept that playoff game against Buffalo close. Nobody was going to call a game like that. And if Skylar Thompson didn't throw some of the dumbest interceptions of all time, then who knows what would have happened in that game. And if Josh Boyer could have a better plan, who knows what would have happened in that game. None of those guys would have even come close in that game on the road at Buffalo with a third-string quarterback. Just would not have happened. This next question comes from SM. He says, Tyreek Hill is a tough guy. He took a beating last year. Nobody seems to care. However, if they can't protect him better, he won't finish the season. Forget 2,000 yards. Interesting. I don't think he really took many hits last year that were like hard hits. He did cramp up a lot last year. That's why he kept getting subbed out, especially at home. But I don't know. I don't think he took a beating. I wouldn't say he took a beating last year, but I understand what you're saying. He had some issues with like, pulling stuff and stuff like that. But I see what you're saying. Like, Tyreek definitely had moments in games where he wasn't 100% healthy, that's for sure, or wasn't 100% right. This question comes from SM. He says, I personally feel bringing in Dalvin Cook would be a mistake. Better to allocate that money to the O-line or re-signing our current players. I agree with that, especially when we're talking about the offensive line. I agree. I'm a big-time O-line person as that thing falls. I'm a big-time O-line person. I've always believed in it, especially being a Dolphins fan. We've witnessed some really bad ones over the years. And we've seen so many of the great teams in the NFL. They all have great offensive lines. Go down the list of them. They all do. So, yeah, it's very important. And I agree. I value the tackle positions over the running back position, that is for sure. Especially when you have a quarterback like Tua, who needs that. He's more of a traditional guy, and he needs the protection. So, to help his game. That's why what they did in the offseason with the tackles, at least, which was my only criticism, was very weird. But they seem to love Austin Jackson. And when Mike McDaniel got here, we haven't seen Austin Jackson with Mike McDaniel. So at least there's that. And when he got here in the offseason, at least, he was getting, and I've said this a million times, I know everybody's sick of hearing about it, but he was getting good reviews. So we'll see. This last question comes from SM again. He says, the undrafted class might outshine our draft class. The undrafted class might outshine our draft class. This tight end, I think, his name is Julian Hill, and Aubrey Miller are young and hungry. Julian Hill is more of a blocking tight end. I don't really see him being a dominant threat in the NFL as a receiver, at least from what we saw. Obviously played at a small school. Same thing with Aubrey Miller. I can't remember his name, but the University of Miami outside linebacker / inside linebacker. I would say mostly an outside linebacker, but he did do some inside stuff. I can't remember his name right now. He's definitely someone to watch. He's had a phenomenal camp. And Aubrey Miller, I really just didn't like what I saw from him at Jackson State, if I'm being honest. He did not look good. So, I don't know. I do like, some of the later round guys I love, like Elijah Campbell. I keep bringing him up. But he has I'm not even joking. Like, I feel like he has it, dude. But it's going to come down to whether he makes the transition to tight end or not. But he has it, dude. He does. He's got it. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Things are falling everywhere. It's a mess, dude. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Maybe Dalvin Cook would have signed somewhere, so we can stop talking about it. But yeah, that's it. See you guys in the next one.